Chapter 19. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, This is the statute of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer without defect, in which there is no blemish, and on which a yoke has never come. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and it shall be taken outside the camp and slaughtered before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger, and sprinkle some of its blood toward the front of the tent of meeting 7 times. And the heifer shall be burned in his sight. Its skin, its flesh, and its blood, with its dung, shall be burned. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet yarn, and throw them into the fire, burning the heifer. Then the priest shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. But the priest shall be unclean until evening. The one who burns the heifer shall wash his clothes in water and bathe his body in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them outside the camp in a clean place. And they shall be kept for the water for impurity for the congregation of the people of Israel. It is a sin offering. And the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. And this shall be a perpetual statute for the people of Israel, and for the stranger who sojourns among them. Whoever touches the dead body of any person shall be unclean 7 days. He shall cleanse himself with the water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, and so be clean. But if he does not cleanse himself on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, he will not become clean. Whoever touches a dead person, the body of anyone who has died, and does not cleanse himself, defiles the tabernacle of the Lord, and that person shall be cut off from Israel. Because the water for impurity was not thrown on him, he shall be unclean. His uncleanness is still on him. This is the law when someone dies in a tent. Everyone who comes into the tent and everyone who is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. And every open vessel that has no cover fastened on it is unclean. Whoever in the open field touches someone who was killed with a sword, or who died naturally, or touches a human bone or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. For the unclean they shall take some ashes of the burnt sin offering, and fresh water shall be added in a vessel. Then a clean person shall take hyssop, and dip it in the water, and sprinkle it on the tent, and on all the furnishings, and on the persons who were there, and on whoever touched the bone, or the slain, or the dead, or the grave. And the clean person shall sprinkle it on the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day. Thus on the 7th day he shall cleanse him, and he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and at evening he shall be clean. If the man who is unclean does not cleanse himself, that person shall be cut off from the midst of the assembly, since he has defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. Because the water for impurity has not been thrown on him, he is unclean. And it shall be a statute forever for them. The one who sprinkles the water for impurity shall wash his clothes, and the one who touches the water for impurity shall be unclean until evening. And whatever the unclean person touches shall be unclean, and anyone who touches it shall be unclean until evening. Psalm 56. To the choirmaster, according to the dove on far-off terebinths, a miktam of David, when the Philistines seized him in Gath. Be gracious to me, O God, for man tramples on me. All day long an attacker oppresses me. My enemies trample on me all day long, for many attack me proudly. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust, I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me? All day long they injure my cause. All their thoughts are against me for evil. They stir up strife, they lurk, they watch my steps, as they have waited for my life. For their crime, will they escape? In wrath, cast down the peoples, O God. You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Then my enemies will turn back in the day when I call. This I know, that God is for me. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can man do to me? I must perform my vows to you, O God. I will render thank offerings to you. For you have delivered my soul from death, yes, my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. Psalm 57. To the choirmaster, according to Do Not Destroy, a miktam of David when he fled from Saul in the cave. Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge, till the storms of destruction pass by. I cry out to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven and save me. He will put to shame him who tramples on me. Selah. God will send out his steadfast love and his faithfulness. My soul is in the midst of lions. I lie down amid fiery beasts, the children of man whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. They set a net for my steps. My soul was bowed down. They dug a pit in my way, but they have fallen into it themselves. Selah. My heart is steadfast, O God. My heart is steadfast. I will sing and make melody. Awake, my glory. Awake, O harp and lyre. I will awake the dawn. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the peoples. I will sing praises to you among the nations, for your steadfast love is great to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. Chapter 8. Then the Lord said to me, Take a large tablet and write on it in common characters, belonging to Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. And I will get reliable witnesses, Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah, to attest for me. And I went to the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. Then the Lord said to me, Call his name Maher-shalal-Hash-baz, for before the boy knows how to cry, My father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried away before the king of Assyria. The Lord spoke to me again, Because this people has refused the waters of Shiloah that flow gently, and rejoice over Rezin and the son of Remaliah. Therefore, behold, the Lord is bringing up against them the waters of the river, mighty and many, the king of Assyria and all his glory. And it will rise over all its channels and go over all its banks, and it will sweep on into Judah. It will overflow and pass on, reaching even to the neck, and its outspread wings will fill the breadth of your land, O Emmanuel. Be broken, you peoples, and be shattered. Give ear, all you far countries. Strap on your armor and be shattered. Strap on your armor and be shattered. Take counsel together, but it will come to nothing. Speak a word, but it will not stand, for God is with us. For the Lord spoke thus to me with his strong hand upon me, and warned me not to walk in the way of this people, saying, Do not call conspiracy all that this people calls conspiracy, and do not fear what they fear, nor be in dread. But the Lord of hosts, him you shall honor as holy. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. And he will become a sanctuary and a stone of offense, and a rock of stumbling to both houses of Israel, a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many shall stumble on it. They shall fall and be broken. They shall be snared and taken. Bind up the testimony. Seal the teaching among my disciples. I will wait for the Lord, who is hiding his face from the house of Jacob, and I will hope in him. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord has given me are signs and portents in Israel from the Lord of hosts, who dwells on Mount Zion. And when they say to you, Inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Should they inquire of the dead on behalf of the living? To the teaching and to the testimony, if they will not speak according to this word, it is because they have no dawn. They will pass through the land greatly distressed and hungry. And when they are hungry, they will be enraged and will speak contemptuously against their king and their God, and turn their faces upward. And they will look to the earth, but behold, distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish. And they will be thrust into thick darkness. Chapter 2. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. For if a man wearing a gold ring and fine clothing comes into your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothing also comes in, and if you pay attention to the one who wears the fine clothing, and say, "You sit here in a good place," while you say to the poor man, "You stand over there," or "Sit down at my feet," have you not then made distinctions among yourselves, and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my beloved brothers. Has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which he has promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Are not the rich the ones who oppress you, and the ones who drag you into court? Are they not the ones who blaspheme the honorable name by which you were called? If you really fulfill the royal law according to the Scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin, and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever keeps the whole law, but fails in one point, has become guilty of all of it. For he who said, "Do not commit adultery," also said, "Do not murder." If you do not commit adultery, but do murder, you have become a transgressor of the law. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith, and I have works." Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, "Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God." You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. And in the same way was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead.
The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Father, thank you for this day. I pray that your spirit would anoint my words, that what I have to say would go forth and take root, and the seeds would spread, and the roots would grow, and a blossom would become apparent. Lord, that your word would go forth and transform our lives and this world. In your name, amen. Hello, everyone. Bit of a different, I'm going to do something a little different today, but also have a bit of a different setup today. I've been woefully negligent in cleaning out my Gmail inbox. And so the link that I normally click on to get in here, I couldn't get to. And so I had to go through a different email account. So I cannot control anything behind the scenes. Poor producer Gina has to do everything. And there may be things that I in other words, I'm not in here as a producer. This platform, I'm in here as a guest, and so I have limited control, and I may not see everything. I may not see everything in the comment section either. So as I say hello to you, if I left anybody out, I'll use that as my excuse. Sorry. So I will greet you all. I don't know if I can't even put your comments up. That's okay. Chantel, good morning to you. I'm going in reverse order. Chantel Stoddard, good to see you back here. Lucas Sago, hello. Mitch Nelson, Carrie Jumper, Jacqueline Edwards, Jeff Patterson. I hear you. I see you. AC Cruz, Painted Wolf, good morning. Blues One Clue, Darren, good to see you. Mitch Nelson, there I see. Lost in Time Industries, Chris Bounds. Happy Bergie, good morning. Good morning. All right. Hello, everybody. So today, I'm just going to focus a little bit in James and then talk about something going on. If you guys went over to yesterday on This Way Network, the chat session was just me. It was overflowing. I was telling you some kind of private, intimate information about what I'm working on. It's going to be what I'm going to talk about today is similar to that, but not so much me, but what God is doing, what I've seen, or I'll get to it. But here, the sin, my brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faithful. The verse I want to emphasize is here. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? And some scholars are, there's not, I guess it's debate, but there's this issue that some theologians have with James, because he seems to be emphasizing works, and we are not saved by works. We're saved by the grace of God, and he gives us faith. We cannot earn faith. We cannot earn favor with God. Then why such an emphasis on works? In verse 18, but someone will say, I have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. And so James is just drawing attention to even the devil believes, even demons believe, right? Jesus came to the Gadarene demoniac, right? He came to this place of heathen and pagans, right? There were pigs. It was a pig farm. This is not a Jewish area. This is an area that is ruled by some other principality other than Michael the archangel, who's the principality over Israel. And I won't go into all the details of why that's the case. Again, at the Tower of Babel, God divided up the nations, created essentially the separate nations with confusing the languages, and the principalities were all assigned. Assignments were given or whatever. I don't know if God assigned them or it was a free for all, but God claimed one, and that was Israel, and it was the angel Michael who is the principality over Israel. This we get out of Daniel, right? The book of Daniel gives us hints of that. But Jesus came to overthrow all those other principalities over the other nations. That's Jesus came to claim his authority. That's why the devil could offer him rulership over all the nations at the temptation, right? And in the wilderness, the devil could offer him rulership over all the nations because the devil had authority. And Jesus, he says, at one point when he sends his disciples out to cast demons out, he says in John 10, I see Satan falling. I saw Satan falling like lightning. And so that's the beginning or the overthrow. Jesus' whole life is the overthrow of Satan's authority. Once Jesus is crucified and resurrected, he says, all authority has been given to me. So there are no powers and principalities that have authority. There's still powers and principalities that do stuff, but they don't have ultimate authority, right? That explains why there's still failings in evil. One of the works that we are to do is to proclaim God's jurisdiction, right? The good news is that God won and he owns it all. And the humans that don't believe that still submit to those principalities and powers. That's why there's evil. And so gradually, as we continue to spread the good news, and all that to say, all that is to say that the demons, when Jesus went to the Gadarene demoniac, what did the demons say to him? We you are the son of the Most High. The demons were like, oh, you're the boss. You are in charge. You can do what you will. Please don't please send us over there. They're begging Jesus as the authority. They recognize he had authority. So the demons believe. It's not enough to believe. The demons believe in Jesus as the Messiah. The demons believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Satan knows, right? That was Satan's last ditch effort in the wilderness to foil God's plan. Satan's last ditch effort. Once, I've said this again over and over, when Jesus was baptized and came up out of the water, a voice, right? It's the first time we have God's voice declaring, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. And that wasn't just for the small group sitting around there in the hearing. It was for all of the unseen realm, all the demons. This is the first news that they are receiving, that this is how God is doing it, right? They were blindsided. So Satan comes, says, oh, I've got authority. I've got to kind of thwart God's plan. He knows. They believe. So believing is not enough. That's you haven't been converted once you acknowledge that Jesus is the Messiah. Now, calling Jesus Lord is different. The demons don't call him Lord, because Lord means, you are submitting. You have submitted yourself. So this faith, I will show you my faith by my works. So you've all probably heard these analogies. You can't, if you staple an apple to an orange tree, it doesn't become an apple tree, right? If you put the fruit on, if you tie some grapes on a fig branch, that doesn't become a grapevine, right? So you'll know them by their fruits. You can't change the plant into something. The fruit comes naturally. And so I look at my life, I'm like, what have I, as a Christian, does this, I can look back and see, okay, my life was transformed. It wasn't me doing it. It was me submitting to spiritual leaders, number one, right? I mean, the word of God, but God puts people in our lives to teach us. So submitting to spiritual leaders, going to, like, if somebody came to me, at that point said, you should go to this Bible school. And I went to that Bible school, and it was absolutely God's plan that I get that foundation in seminary level education and go on the mission field. Okay. Yes. It was a spiritual leader said, you should probably go to this mission field. And I learned Spanish, and it has come in handy. It is like, and then what? I had an inkling that I should go to school. I'm like, this was God speaking to me and guiding me. And I went to a Christian college, and through that met the woman I was supposed to marry, and the vision for working in Hollywood came back, and just obeying, wanting to do God's will, wanting to do right, not wanting to do my will. And our will comes into it. It's like God designed us for something. So if we can filter that out, the things that we want that we know are wrong, ignore. The things that we want that we think couldn't be that bad, that might be one of the ways God is guiding us. He's designed us in a certain way, and that's how it has happened for me. So this project, this journey that I've been on, God's led me to this project that I'm working on, and this is the work. Right behind me is the map you see of Armenia, or Turkey, modern day Turkey, but this is this is where Christianity was born, literally where my finger is at. The word Christian was coined in that town right there. This is where God started. Well, the first Christian nation, right? The first obedience to the Great Commission happened right here. This is the first obedience, or the first fulfillment of the Great Commission, right? So I'm focused on that, and I believe that this is something God is doing. I mean, this is the work that I'm about, right? And it's all about so saying all of that, I'm like, I'm grateful that God has given me a vision, and God should give everybody a vision. And, it's like, what is my vision? Why am I here? And you should all regularly ask that question. God, what would you have for me? What good work am I capable of doing, and should I do? And if I don't do it, it will be counted against me, right? Well, I'm saying all that because this new movie, Sound of Freedom, I recommend you all watch the Jordan Peterson interview with Jim Caviezel and the guy, I forget his name. I won't, Tim. Well, so the movie Sound of Freedom, the reason I bring that up is it is an example of what I am focused on, right? Just telling this story that I'm working on, not just telling it, but how to tell it. The importance of the historicity, the facts of it. Hollywood tends to tell the motto in Hollywood, where I work, where God sent me. The motto in Hollywood is just tell a good story, the truth be damned. It's like if the true story isn't good enough, we in Hollywood are smart enough to make it a good story. Don't worry. Tim Ballard, there it is. Yeah. So Jim Caviezel and Tim Ballard were interviewed by Jordan Peterson. Look it up. It's I'm going to be talking about a little bit about it in the next few minutes. But Hollywood's motto: tell a good story, the truth be damned. My motto is the closer you get to the truth, the better the story. Right? Find those stories that the closer you get to the truth, the better the story. I'm just reading some of the comments. I did try and go see the movie and it was sold out. Good sign. It was sold out. Like, how often you go to a theater and something's sold out? I mean, they haven't been able to get as many theaters as they want. That's the big struggle. And it's good news. It's like, it's one of those, this is God moving. This is absolutely God moving. This movie is God moving. So go watch it. Just by watching it, that'll be some of your good works, right? That'll be some of the fruit of your good works. But what's happening, even Rotten Tomatoes, I don't know where it's at now, but it was like 98%, even the ratings, it's like, it is a good movie. And one of the things Jim says in the interview is he knew when he did Count of Monte Cristo and The Passion of the Christ, those two movies, he knew in the middle of production that they were onto something special. And Jim says that of this movie. He says those two movies were successful, but he knew they were doing something special. And those are both God-glorifying movies. Count of Monte Cristo is incredible if you haven't seen it. But this movie, Jim said he felt that same thing. But here it is, like what this Tim Ballard guy was a CIA. He worked in the CIA. He's a godly Christian guy, married man with a wife and 6 kids. And he worked for the CIA. And then, but he was focused on, he studied in college terrorism. Like he studied in college terrorism. The CIA sought him out. You'd be a guy, work for us. And he wanted to focus on human trafficking. And so when Homeland Security became a department in the government, he left the CIA, jumped from the CIA, from one government job to another. And he was doing an operation rescuing children from sex trafficking. There are videos that you don't ever want to see because they'll change your life. And this guy had to watch them thousands of hours. And there are videos that you never want to see because they will change your life for the worse. You will have nightmares. And this guy, it was his job to watch these videos of the most innocent being destroyed. And he came to a moment where he was interviewing this kid, and the little Mexican kid, and he speaks Spanish, came, "Can you save my sister? Can you find my sister?" This little girl disappeared. And the government, that wasn't his assignment. The Homeland Security is like, "No, you got to come back and do this other thing, right? You belong to the government when you work for the government." And he prayed, and he went to his wife, and he said, "Should I do this?" And she said, "You pray, and if you tell me if you can do it, and then you're in front of God at the end of your life, and you didn't, what would you say?" And he said, "That would be a bad interview." His wife said, "You go and think about what God at the end of your life, what's the interview? And if you could have saved this child and you didn't," he said, "that would be a bad interview." And it was his wife. And then when he was quitting the government to go out on his own to rescue children, his accountant said, "Wow, your pension, you're almost vested, fully vested in your pension. You'll get $12 million when you retire." He was like, "Ooh, that was another $12 million." Well, this guy obeyed God and rescued hundreds of children in that one mission. They're continually doing it. This is something going on now. You watch this movie, it's something that's happening right now. It's not, it happened when. And Jim Caviezel's already signed on to play the sequel, right? This is the new, like, Jason Bourne kind of thing. Like, this is a series, a franchise. This first one's a success. The second one's in process already. This is God at work exposing evil in the world. And I just watch the interview. It's incredible. And then get to the theaters and do, they will know you by your fruits. if you go watch that movie. All right, love you guys. Gina's going to come back in here and